Michael versus Hayden, and this is Hayden Dale of, like I mentioned earlier, from Arsenal Pass, playing Kano. Kano into Prism, which is traditionally a tough matchup for Kano, but this was pre the release of Aether Wildfire. Now with Aether Wildfire at your disposal, is it a better matchup overall? We'll find out.
Well, Michael Caronchla here is somebody from Toronto. He's from the Red Riot Games kind of testing group and such, and you see him really prowling a lot of the pro quests, especially Harry Tarantula, Gamer's Lair, all of those Ontario pro quests. I have played against him many times in pro quests, an absolute just stalwart on Prism, a very, very dedicated Prism player, somebody who goes there and just says, you know what, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it my way, which in this case is Prism. And you've seen Michael really terrorize a lot of players because Michael is a very well-versed Prism player. And in this case, the beauty is that Crown of Reflection is an arcane barrier as well. So you've got the gloves, you've got the crown, and worst case scenario, we'll see. We don't have decklist, but perhaps Michael may have sort of thought that Kano was around. Also, Michael is a very, very good Kano player as well. So this is really something that he will know what Kano is capable of and will be able to set up his defenses properly in this matchup.
Wow, and so Hayden starts off the game, turn 0, has an energy potion, looks at the top of the deck with that, pitching away that foreboding bolt, and choosing to put it back. And that could mean one of a few things. One, it's something like an Aether Wildfire, which I think he also had in hand and just arsenaled. Or two, he found another potion, which would be incredibly unlucky this early in the game. To have E-Pod in hand and a potion on top would be really unfortunate to draw into early. And that is what we've seen, sort of the tale of Kano on stream. Kano has dominated certain stream games, but then fallen short at the wrong moments by hitting potions on the top.
So I believe that's a blue Herald of Ravages, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, no, that is Herald of Triumph.
Triumph.
That's my favorite Herald for the art. I love that one.
That is a beautiful one indeed. Now, Herald of Ravages is going to basically shave 1 point off the attack. So it's good for, not necessarily popping the Phantasm on it. But in this case, Hayden's not worried about that. It's just blocking this out. It's not happening.
He's never going to pop a Phantasm. So you're, as the Kano player in this matchup, if they have a bunch of Heralds, then you're like, this is going to be a tough, grindy matchup where they're probably just going to push a bunch of damage. But in the current sort of build, the most popular build of Prism, they're running all the auras. And if this is blue aura Prism, then it's a lot more manageable. And here, as we see, this is one way to get there by just throwing a Crucible Lesson in Lava and then just going and digging for whatever you want from the deck after this hits. And it is going to hit.
It is going to hit because really with Arcane Barrier 2, no Spectral Shields on the board. All you can do is really block 2. The crown and the gloves will eat up 2. Now, the well-versed Prism players will typically kind of hang on to a blue in their hand in order to, once they're done presenting their own attack, they'll be able to keep some sort of defense in their hand. You can't just block this by tossing out things that have defense values. You need actual resources to pay for this. And in this case, Michael being not only a top-tier Prism player, but also a very good Kano player, will understand how both sides of the board work to his advantage.
Now, this is a good decision by Hayden. When presented with a 2-card hand and the ability to play a Crucible Lesson in Lava, you know you're not getting value off the top of your deck. So what do you pick to put in the top of the deck? Something you want to draw. And the best card you could possibly draw in this scenario, Aether Spindle Red. So Aether Spindle Red on the top of the deck being drawn into by Hayden. If your opponent, as Kano, doesn't threaten you with a Herald here, then you consider just full taking whatever they can throw at you. And this is a dangerous, dangerous thing. Miraging Metamorph coming in. That is a dangerous threat.
All right. Now, I love this play. This is something that you can catch some unexperienced players with. You come in with the Miraging Metamorph. Now, obviously, if you can pop it, that's when you sneak in another aura. No popping ability here for Hayden. This is pure 7 go again.
Yeah, it's a 1 for 7.
Sorry, no go again.
It doesn't have go again yet, and you can't really give it go again, but it's a 1 for 7, and that is such a threat when, again, as a wizard, you start at the squishy life total of 30. And so this could be a very back-and-forth game that we're seeing on these first 2 turns. It could continue to play out like this, where Hayden continues to try and just block, eat damage, play a 2-card hand. And again, this is fine. We know that one of the cards is a 2-cost Aether Spindle. If he's got a blue plus that, this is a Crucibled Aether Spindle, and you get to opt Oh, he's going to draw 2 with a Tome of Aetherwind, hoping to draw into a blue or some other combination of cards. Now, instead of actually playing the Aether Spindle that he had earlier, he's going to just play the Tome for the action point, and then maybe play off the top of the deck.
Now, yourself, again, you're very well versed in Wizard, and when you're facing off against the Prism, you're more afraid in these cases about the Heralds than you are about the Auras.
Right, yes. We actually do, as Kano players, have options for destroying auras in the form of Scour now. As Scour is, wow, and off the top, a Sonic Boom. And he pitched a Sonic Boom to find a Sonic Boom off the top, and he will be able to play said Sonic Boom with possibly even a Crucible pitching the last card in, or perhaps 2 cards. All 3 Sonic Booms are on the table. That is that's a very strange place to be at. Sonic Boom coming in for 4 will guarantee deal damage here because AB2 is the only thing that you can activate, unless they had the red prismatic shield. Like, you're only out to stop a Sonic Boom.
I gotta say, the one time I just was unsure about certain sideboard slots, I did put in some red prismatic shields, and I did face off a Kano, and it did help me immensely. I just do not think that that's a card that really is on anyone's radar right now.
And this is not what you want to see. Sonic Boom looking on the top of the deck. Hayden shook his head, wondering if that's either, and maybe trying to sort of like play the mind games of, ooh, maybe I want that card in my hand, but it also could just be a potion off the top. And Sonic Boom into a potion is like your only option in the deck. Potions and Tome of Fiendal are the only things mostly run in deck lists that you can't play off of a Sonic Boom trigger.
So off of a 60-card list, how many whiffs are really floating around in there?
It depends on how many people play the Potion of Deja Vu. If you play full copies of Potion of Deja Vu, then you're looking at like 8 to 9. If you come down off that and you come down off your energy potions, which the Epot, he has 1 out already, then you're anywhere like 6 or 7. But out of a 60-card deck, that's a small chance.
All right, this is one of those double dip cards in terms of getting so much stretching out the value off of a Herald of Protection coming in for 6, if I'm not mistaken. A yellow Herald of Protection on hit. This is going to go to solo. It's also going to create a Spectral Shield. Now, that has so many implications because that Spectral Shield can also attack, but can also, absorb some of the damage.
Yes.
These are the Heralds that you kind of have to respect if you're Hayden Dale, but also at the same time, if you're Hayden Dale and you just really like your hand, you'll just burn through this because even before the Spectral Shield might attack, you might come back with some damage and just
destroy it.
Destroy it altogether.
Exactly true. Generally, you're not, unless you're Kanoing off the top for value. If you're Kanoing what I call with priority, where your opponent's not really threatening anything, they have maybe a less than full grip, maybe they don't have a ton of arcane barrier, you can Kano with impunity off the top towards the end of their turn. You're not usually playing on their turn, you're usually playing on your own turn, but the option is always there. And here we have a push of a blue Wartune Herald pushing 5 extra damage. And then, of course, this will always get followed up by the Spectral Shield attack as well.
Definitely. The Spectral Shield is still there. Not to mention you do have a loaded soul, so the 2 floating resources can be used to create another Spectral Shield if necessary. But again, like I mentioned, keep in mind, Hayden Dale can just bust through with some arcane damage in order to just burn through that Spectral Shield. So, but presenting a block in this case, it's still going to punch through for a couple here. So that is going to also go to soul, and those souls are incredibly important. Prism players want a loaded soul. It's another outlet to pitch yellow to create the go again effect. But in this case, Heralds are the order here. Most of the strategies that Prisms are going to be taking in most matchups are to develop a big board of auras to outpace your opponent's cleanup with just jumping more and more and more garbage on the board and tell him to deal with it. So here comes another swing of a Spectral Shield. Hayden Dale is, he's an OG. He's one of the best. And Hayden Dale on Kano has so many implications. That is just a scary marriage of a hero and a player, when Hayden Dale decides to take Kano to a matchup.
Yeah, but in this scenario, he's put in an awkward spot where he's had a couple of really tough off the top of the deck turns. Things like traditional, that's a big play on the Pierced Reality coming down. But off of the back of like a Sonic Boom where you really want to push some extra damage, try to get the parity in the life totals, you end up not getting what you need. And we don't know if there's like a potion in hand. We don't know if there is a, another non-block card in hand like an Eye of Ophidia. If that's the case, then seeing either of those cards off the top off of that Sonic Boom earlier just really slowed him down. You need in the Kano, like just in general in Kano, you need to try and get that life parity at some point, and not really being able to do that because of we have just some off the top difficulties has made this match really tough, especially because Michael has been able to have more heralds present in the deck.
Yeah, getting those heralds and being able to toss them at a wizard player is so important here. A judge call here real quick that got resolved. Nice. If we get any information that, we will definitely convey it to you. We're not exactly sure what that was, though, but we will let you know.
Turns out that Michael was announcing a pass, but then decided before he finished the turn was able to play down the Pierce Reality, and judge came over and resolved the issue with both players.
All right, so we're back on track over here again. This typically we've seen Kano matches barely reach turn 3. We're already into turn 4s and 5s over here, so this one's going to take a little bit longer for the Kano player. Hayden might be able to see the other side of the deck if necessary. You start really cycling through with that Kano ability. You'll see those Sonic Booms that were pitched a little while ago. So
he's going to Tunic Resource, pay for one of the blocks on Arcane Barrier. It's going to destroy these other 2 Spectral Shields. Seeing a blue Aether Spindle off the top is not great. It's not bad, though, because following this up for the action point, it was an energy potion that he likely saw off the top with that Sonic Boom. A really painful thing to see. When you don't have many misses in the deck and you really can capitalize off of the power of Sonic Boom and you end up seeing the one thing you don't want to see on the top, at least you can get it out on the field, and oh no.
Oh boy.
Herald of Erudition.
Yeah, this is the tough one. All right, so this is basically what you're hunting for as a Prism player, especially against a Kano, because there's nothing that's going to pop this for Phantasm.
No.
There's really, you have no equipment that is going to adequately block this necessarily, so this is just kind of a free pass here. This is a great card for Michael to fall into his hands over here, drop it in for a 5. Dominate. It will have go again, having pitched the Soul Shield again. Soul Shield completely useless in this case. It's merely pitch fodder. And now Herald of Erudition on hit will draw Michael 2 cards. So this can be a very, very long turn. Should Michael get lucky here and draw another one of those Heralds of Erudition and really continue the train, Hayden's going to be having some trouble.
Yeah, this is one of those turns that I've actually played against when an opponent can string together Herald of Erudition, a second Herald of Erudition, from the draw 2 cards effect, and then just win the game basically outright. And it's actually this exact card in this exact matchup that I think there's an argument to be made that of all the different headpieces that you can wear as Kano, Skullcap perhaps the most utility-based in this moment, because if you have the 2 block on Skullcap, you can chuck that plus a 3 block card from hand and come across without them triggering the draw card effect.
Plus, I mean, you get the 2 block off the Skullcap, and then you have another 1, and maybe your Tunic can stuff the second one. And by then, I mean, usually the games are all done. Here's another War Tune Herald.
Yeah,
this one
War
yellow.
Tune Herald coming across. And this is the old school Kano issue that we always had as Kano players of playing into Prism with a bunch of just aggro heralds. This strategy, so painful to play into. Now, as a Kano player, you have the possible out of just finding Wildfire and going crazy, but it's still such an uphill battle to just deal with all of these overstatted, undercosted heralds.
All right, so blocking a little bit here again, Hayden Dale understands that his life total is merely another resource that he has to keep track of. It's just sort of a timer, like it's a fuse that is lit, and basically Michael's just trying to accelerate, throw some gas on that fuse, and in this case, creating another Spectral Shield. It's double duty here, absorbing some of the Arcade Fire that's going to be coming towards him from Hayden, but also being able to attack here. So Michael at 34 with some Arcane Barrier, with some Spectral Shields, feels quite comfortable, especially since Hayden Dale here is at 7, and there's work to be done. Now, the beauty of Kano is typically when push comes to shove, when you're at that end point, Kano will essentially get 2 turns in a row, right?
This is true. Yes, you can play it that way. You do need your opponent to be in that, like 20 life total range to really feel comfortable with a kill off of the back of something like an Aether Wildfire. Old school, you were doing it off the back of like Forked Lightnings, and you could do some weird stuff with Forked and Blazing. But here, masterfully just playing out this matchup with all of these heralds, managing like cards and soul, creating spectral shields is Michael. Feeling very comfortable in this. He's doing a fantastic job of seizing control of this game and forcing Hayden to just have stuff and try to find and claw and get his way back in this game.
Well, that's part of it. I mean, a lot of people will say that some of these wins, it's not all about luck. It has to come down to repetition. It has to come down to practice. It has to come down to actually playing the matchups, understanding the matchups, and that's how you find success. And a lot of times you might fall into that rabbit hole of saying, well, you got this off the top, but Michael here is playing this because he knows both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
And he knows that if it turns, you flip the coin, it comes up heads, I know what to do. Comes up tails, I also know what to do. And when you have that kind of acumen of having the reps on both sides, I mean, I've played against Michael many times, and he has played Prism very well. And in every ProQuest, in every tournament I've seen him play, he plays and he knows his deck inside out. So he is just a masterful player on this hero, but also on Kano, and that's going to help, and that is definitely going to serve him well in this matchup. Yeah,
and understanding what Prism can do, and understanding the general strategy of, oh look, they're generally weaker than most heroes. As Prism playing into Kano, Kano's generally weaker than most heroes. I can just throw my big stuff at them. I don't need to worry about siding out equipment to get more Arcane Barrier. And we've talked a lot about how Kano, just super excited to see AB2, AB1, no AB, no Arcane Barrier at all. In this specific matchup, you don't need to side in. You can just throw heralds as long as you have them in your sideboard for certain matchups. You can just throw heralds, and that's what's playing out right here.
Yeah, he's basically right now, Michael's tossing a 9-piece at him and saying, I hope you got the dipping sauce for this bad boy, because frankly, this is a hefty one.
Yeah, this is Miraging Metamorph coming across. Oh, 1 for 7 is so cheap.
Well, I mean, you've got the buff off of, is that Pierce Reality, I believe?
Yeah, that's exactly right, yeah.
So you got a little bit of an extra hat on top of this one. This one's coming in real hot and heavy here. Yes, it is.
And it's basically saying, okay, this is casual lethal. Are you going to go? Are you going to try to combo off? You got to get to 31. I have several cards in hand still. And yes, you do have to. Now, if you're from Hayden's perspective, we can assume that there's a Wildfire in Arsenal because he hasn't touched it. We can assume, or we know for a fact, that he's got a Tunic resource up plus 2 energy potions. There's a lot to work with if you have a blue hand. If your hand is full of blue cards, you can actually do a ton of damage depending on what's on the top. And we do know that he's taken some of those potions out of the deck. So as long as there's not another potion somewhere lurking on the top of the deck, he could put something together.
Yeah.
But the moment he finds Eye of Ophidia or Potion of Deja Vu off the top, it's like, oh.
Yeah, if he finds like Potion of Disappointment or something like that, is going to be absolutely devastating.
That's how I would feel.
Oh, definitely.
I would feel that way as the Kano player, finding that off the top. He's going to choose the double block, losing a Blazing Aether from hand and a Aether Spindle as well.
I think what Hayden Dale is doing here is like, you know what, I still have some runway here. I still have some opportunities, so we can definitely just toss some cards out here. I've seen 2 of these Miraging Metamorphs. Those are the big boys. They're coming in for 9. Now, there are other, tons of different heralds. So we're going to see. We're going to go ahead, pitch another card, create another Spectral Shield. This is just going to poke in for 1, which is still pretty close because it's going to put Hayden Dale down to 1.
I think he goes to 1, yeah.
With the Pierce Reality that's also on the board there. So Hayden playing a dangerous game. But like we mentioned earlier, Hayden will be able to come through with his own turn, draw up. Michael might present lethal, and then the priority to Hayden to respond. So there's 2 opportunities here for Hayden to make some hay. But what happens in this case, Armada, what if Michael picks up a Merciful Retribution? How does that work out if that damage from the Spectral Shield soaking some Arcane comes back to Hayden?
Things get very complicated in that scenario, but here, keeping the 2-card hand being a blue and a Lesson in Lava means that he is going to be able to search his deck for something, put it on top, which does allow him to set up like a blue in hand. No resources floating means that whatever he's putting on top is likely just going to be drawn. You're not going to want to do some weird creepy thing where you pop your E-pots on your own turn so that you can play something off the top of the deck, unless it's going to present ridiculous damage, and I just don't see that happening. It has to be off the back of a Wildfire, which we can assume is in the arsenal. And then if you're Michael, you're looking at this going, well, I know it's going to hit for something, But what do I need to do? Do I just let it hit for everything, keep a 4-card hand, and try to present lethal, multiple ways with, I don't know, something like, Spectral Shield generation on my turn, multiple Heralds just in case he decides to block, and try to push lethal no matter if he has it or not?
But we can definitely see how the difference of gameplay and how that strategy shifts in this matchup, right? This matchup is a completely different ballgame. People who run into Kano have to just turn their whole strategy inside out, upside down, right? Up is down, left is right, cats are dogs, everything's upsy downsies. In this case, Michael has just basically abandoned the aura strategy because it's not going to work here. It's not fast enough. You need to pitch your auras to go right with all of those hard-hitting heralds.
And this will be an important tell right here. What's he going to do? Yeah, the other option here is grab Lesson in Lava, and maybe you can, with excess resources, come into another Lesson in Lava and do a blazing play, like Lesson Blazing. That is a possibility. He is going to pull a Lesson in Lava and set that on the top of the deck.
So there is Hayden Dale, and again, back against the wall. Now, the great part here is Hayden was maybe with that heads-up play of actually keeping his life at 2, so in case a Spectral Shield with a Merciful Retribution, things like that, there could have been some, shenaniganery, as it were.
That is the correct term.
I thought so. That's Webster's. Just call me up.
They just did?
Oh, did they?
Oh.
Okay. I'll pass it to my secretary. Tannen
going down.
So here we have it again. Hayden Dell with a very sturdy look here.
Yep, he's putting it on top like it's supposed to go. He's going to attempt to pass the turn, ask if Michael wants to do any instant speed. Both of these players can play at instant speed, doing different things, of course. That's the power of their unique heroes. And taking up that Tunic to 3, it's a good timing for that Tunic to 3 because you're probably presenting lethal here with what is, I think, a red War Tune.
I think that's a yellow War Tune, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe it's a blue War Tune.
Maybe
it could be any War Tune at all.
Maybe if you combine all of them, you get this weird kind of rainbow War Tune.
Yeah, like Starvo.
Exactly. If you show all 3 heralds, your heralds should all combine into some sort of Voltron style.
It looks like
herald.
That is a yellow. You were correct. It's a yellow because it's being pushed for 8, of course 6 base, and then +2 from the Pierce Reality. And again, you have 2 options. Option 1, try to block out this turn. Option 2, play for lethal, but you got to get to 30, and 30 is a tall order.
No, that is definitely a tall order, especially against AB2. It's not going to be easy to do in this case, but let's get real here. This is Hayden Dale we're talking about.
With 30, to try and count to 30, there are a couple of ways to do this. It all, of course, involves Wildfire, and it involves buffing up Wildfire as much as possible first, or playing in a little kind of tricky way to get Wildfire to deal max damage so it can snowball for the rest of the turn. And one of the ways to do that, or one of the things you need to do that sort of max effectiveness, is multiple energy potions. And that's exactly what we see here. So he's not out of this yet. We do know that he's seen multiple Sonic Booms pitched, so they're still in the deck. So there could be a Sonic Boom on top. You do have to calculate in your head how many potions you may have on top. Kanoing first may be a consideration to see what's on the top of the deck, so that you can then plan out the rest of your turn. You could also just immediately go for the Wildfire, but Kanoing first is exactly what we see here. I oftentimes do Kano first, and it's an Emeritus Scolding. I don't know if it's blue or if it's red, but Emeritus Scolding does get stronger on your opponent's turn. So going tall.
30 is a tall order. Given the board state and what's going on right now, Armada, is this within reach? Is there in some alternate dimension reality possibility?
Especially if he's got, and we know he has a Lesson in Lava in hand, and that is a big combo piece. It's not something you normally see played out because you normally just play off the top of your deck alongside a Wildfire. But if he also has like a Stir the Aether Winds in hand, Stir into, like Energy Potion could be very powerful. Now, Stir is still available in Classic Constructed, thankfully. It is not rotated out. It's only suspended currently in Blitz, but he's pitching a blue Scalding Rain. He's going to Kano a second time, perhaps.
Hunting. You got to dig, right?
Well, it could be a scenario where he wants to Kano and then Ragamuffin's Hat. I think that's what he's playing towards because he has a card in hand. He's going to pitch a Wildfire, which is almost certainly guaranteed to be a Wildfire. He's going to, in response to the Kano, he's going to activate Storm Striders so that he can get the other card out of hand, so that he has one card left in hand so that he can Ragamuffin's Hat. Ragamuffin's Hat will allow you to draw a card and then put one card back to the top of the deck. And you can only activate it if you have one card in your hand. So he had to do it in this order. Kano, hold priority, activate some other ability, in this case Storm Striders, so that he could get his card count in his hand down to 1. And this is going to draw, oh no, I think he drew into a red Voltic Bolt, which means he's probably not going to have enough resources to go. But the goal here was to Kano into a Lesson in Lava that he drew earlier. Now the question being, did he draw into a red Voltic Bolt?
I'm following.
If he drew into a red, he may not have the resources. Again, right now he's basically face up. Whatever the card he drew is going to become resources, plus the 2 Epots, plus the 1 Fiendal Spring Tunic.
So you're saying there's a chance?
If that's a red Voltic Bolt, the chances are very slim, because you need the resources to pay for the Wildfire and the Emeritus Scolding that you banished earlier.
I gotta say, this point in the matchup, again, we've seen this happen in previous Kano matchups where basically when that lethal is presented, the player presenting lethal to Kano is basically like watching a movie unfold, right?
Yeah.
You're just hoping for a happy ending. And in the same regard, here I am watching you parse through all of this, and it's exciting and it's so intriguing to me.
Okay, so he sets, I think it was a Sonic Boom that he set, which means they were both yellows in hand, so he can now use the Lesson in Lava to pitch for, but again, it leaves you pretty resource starved, which again is why you need energy potions. Oh, it was a Lesson in Lava that he set, so he is going to go the Lesson in Lava route. Resolving the banish, the Storm Striders being popped means he could play something from his arsenal, from his hand. Going to destroy probably an Epot here, maybe both Epots to represent 4 resources.
I mean, how comfortable are you here as Michael? Once you see, Hayden is, you're across from your opponent. This isn't done online, obviously. You're seeing your opponent react to some of the Kano, the Kano rips off the top and such. It's basically do or die in this case. Hayden, in certain cases, a player might be more reserved, have the poker face on, not necessarily give away too much information. But in this case, Hayden, it's either you cross the finish line or you stumble and fail. And Hayden now doing his absolute best. Mm-hmm. So the emotion is showing, and you can see the gears turning, the smoke coming out of the ears. He is that hamster on the wheel is doing double time.
And this is Wildfire for 4. You could have considered a Crucible here. You could consider a Metacarpus Nodes, but you just don't have the resources for it. He's going to pay 1 from the Tunic, 1 from the excess, make a Spectral as well. And block as much of this as possible. And in this moment, you can block 3. And in blocking 3, 2 from the AB, 1 from that Spectral Shield. So 1 deals, and 1 is just not what you need to push across the finish line. Unless you somehow have a crazy third Aether Wildfire that you could somehow pay for, that's just not going to be enough damage to push through. You do have the Tunic resource, and I think it's just not going to get there. Yeah. There was too much going for it, and it did look like it was a Voltic Bolt. Yeah, a Voltic Bolt there, just wasn't able to cross the finish line there at the end. And I just want to point this out. It was entirely conceivable. If you find blues off of that Swap-a-roo for the Ragamuffin's Hat, you could conceivably get there.